Welcome to the GoPROcast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to Go Pro with Jeremy Torres. We are live today with a guest friend of mine from the TCC, the Talent Championships Council, run by Scott McGregor. That's how I met Ken Landis some time ago. Ken grew up on the mean streets of New York City. He had a very challenging childhood, kind of like I did. We have a lot in common there. He was in construction for many years until he moved up to northern New York, where he opened a chain of restaurants. He's got two of them anyway, and it's called, he's the chief executive officer of Crossroads Brewing Company, one in Catskill and a second location in Athens, New York. And today I'm going to have Ken on, and we're going to be talking about overcoming adversity of our childhood. Like we went through how that affected us when we got into our business life, and how he transferred being a construction guy in Queens, New York, to upstate restaurant beer maker guy, and all the things involved with that, with distribution, all the opportunities that come with opening up and owning a restaurant, and also again the challenges of getting through COVID, the C word as I call it. I don't even like saying that word anymore. But without any further ado, let's bring on my friend Ken Landis.
Oh wow, wow, that's some introduction. I love it, man.
That's a wing it. If I ever did wing it,
I love that introduction, man. I feel like I'm walking into the WWE, man.
There we go.
Great WWF, right? We're doing all of that, but I appreciate your time and inviting me on, Jeremy. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. I think I said Ken Landis too. It's Landin because I'm clicking the button. So make sure we got that right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I didn't even pick that up. Yeah, Landin.
Yeah.
But so, you know what? I'll answer.
All right. Just don't call me late for dinner, right?
Don't call me late for dinner. 100%. 100%.
So welcome to the show, man. Why don't we'll kick it off? Just tell us a little bit about, like we talked about, where you came up with, how the adversities you had to come, and how that impacted you with getting into business, or at least into the working mode for initially.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's a long journey, just like everybody else that's faced adversity. You know, I grew up predominantly in Queens, New York. Spent some time out on Long Island. Grew up, a broken home. Quick background on that. You know, my mom had me when she was 18 years old. She had 3 kids by the time she was 25. She was a single mom. Worked 2 jobs. I took care of my brother and sister when I was 9 years old. Huh. And, it was that kind of story, and, I can remember coming home and with an ad in my hand, and it said Pop Warner. You want to play Pop Warner football? I wanted to play. She looked at the price and she said it was $110. She said, we don't have it. I said, well, I want to play. And she said, well, get a job.
So how old were you?
I was 9.
Jeez. Only in New York.
Only in New York. So I wanted to play that bad. So I went out, I got a paper out. Got a paper out. I played Pop Warner. But to get the paper out, I had to have a bicycle, which I didn't have. So my mom drove me around a little bit until I had enough money first to buy a bicycle.
Oh, wow. That's a great mom.
Yeah. Oh, she was great. And, got the bike, and then played football.
How long did it take you to save up that money?
Well, back then, you got to remember, a bike was probably like what, $6-7. It was a used bike.
Yeah.
But one of the devastating moments that I had, I remember coming home and somebody stole my bike, and I was, oh my God, like I'm a kid, man, like come on.
Yes, a kid's bike, right? Obviously. So let me unpack one thing though. It's really telling right there. It probably says a lot about that maybe set you up for your path here, because you're right. $6 or $7 wasn't a lot of money back then, but it was still, at the time, for a single mom, for her to just scrape together 6 or 7, could have done it, but elected to put the time in to drive you around and make you earn it yourself.
Right.
A lot of parents, myself included, would not have done that. We would have said, okay, I'll buy the bike and maybe you pay me back, and maybe I wouldn't take the money because I feel bad. But the lessons that you miss by doing that, were huge. I mean, So that's one thing. Kudos to her for that. And then the second thing is, how long did you have it before someone ripped it off?
Well, I used to have to ride it to football too. So,
Yeah,
like 3 miles, I rode the bike. So I made it through the football season, and then eventually made
it
some
got
more money
ripped off.
for another bicycle. But but what that taught me at that age, honestly, it taught me very, very quickly at 9 years old, the value of a dollar and the work ethic that you.
That's hot, man. We need to have that work ethic, the value of the dollar. Learning it at that young of age is critical.
Yeah, 100%. So facing adversity at a very young age, taking care of my brother and sister. My mom worked 2 jobs. And I mean, just to think back to those days is, she worked in a drugstore at night, and she would finish at 11 o'clock at night. And I think I was 8 years old, and my sister was 6, and my brother was God 2 maybe. I would leave them alone and go meet my mom, so she wouldn't have to walk home alone. So it was just
Jeez.
different. It was just different times. It was
Yeah.
totally different times. But those lessons that you learned back then and the trouble that you got in, I believe that starts the foundation of the person that you become.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
but moving fast forward to again, I had a very strained, on and off, very volatile, pretty aggressive relationship with my father. But he's no longer with us. And but back in the beginning, once I progressed into my teenage years, what I did have an opportunity to was be taught a trade, which was where I kind of started my my drywall, sheetrocking, trade values. And I still hold those true to my heart very, very closely today.
Yes.
And that was one thing that nobody could ever take away from me, was I got taught a trade at literally 13 years old. So through,
you went fast forward, man. Talk about a bam. That's fast forward. And that's, I think, what today's people, and I think it's not just today's, I think the last generation and a half are missing out on is, number one, they're not looking at trade schools enough, right? Being more concerned about college, which is a cesspool of indoctrination, no matter almost anywhere you go. But also, whatever they're doing, and no matter what they're doing, they're looking at it as a job instead of a trade. Even if they didn't go to trade school, if they're digging trenches ahead of the plumbers, that's a trade. Ditch digging is a trade. It's the starting, landing right there on the road to being a tradesman.
No, wait a minute now. You could have said digging trenches and ditches for running wires, Jared.
I could have done that.
Let's think about where you got your start too.
I probably fed a little bit into that, a little bit of past. I always say I worked at the bottom and worked my way down because I was digging the trenches for those conduits. That's a good one.
Yep.
I'll give you a bam on that one.
That's great. I can appreciate that from where you came from. It's
but at 13 now you've got number one, your own school, learning a trade, and then you have the pride of being a tradesman ingrained into you.
Right. So again, learning the value of a dollar very quickly. Also, now I'm learning a trade, right? So I was through my teenage years, 13, 17, 18, 19 years old, I was one of the few kids around that, sacrificed a lot. And what I mean by that, like when my friends were out playing and going out Friday nights, Saturday, Sundays, I was working. Any days off from school, I was working. I was doing whatever I can. And I always had, I had money because, look, I had to buy a bicycle for $6 and I didn't have $6, I learned from that. So, but don't get me wrong. I mean, some of the most awkward times in our lives are probably our teenage years. And if you also throw in a pocket full of money, it could be it could be beneficial, but it could also be quite detrimental to get you involved in things that you shouldn't have gotten involved in. And
especially when you grow up where we grew up, New York for me, South Florida, for you, New York City.
Right.
Somebody maybe in the flyover states maybe not have that same sort of access to trouble.
Right.
But there's trouble everywhere to get into and to be had, but not like for me, and even more so for you.
Sure. Yeah. And it was hard to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Honestly, the thing that saved me is I had a great work ethic. No matter what I got into, no matter how bad it got, I always showed up.
Yeah.
You know? And that was a big deal. You know, my uncle taught me that, like, you got to show up. It doesn't, you want to play, you going to pay, but you got to show up.
If you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. That was my saying.
You have to be.
I was really tough too because I was so dumb. So many bad choices, but nothing that I was lucky dumb or I was smart dumb. I always tell my kids, if you're going to be dumb, be smart.
Be smart.
You know.
Yeah, sure.
You got to risk that. They got to risk there, so you can get in trouble. I can get in a fist fight and get in a street brawl.
Yeah.
Kind of take a look around. Do a count. All right. You see any badges? How many people are on their side? Yeah. You know, you'd be a little calculated there before you just jump in both feet or both fists, as it were for me. But you don't want to go to jail for something stupid, and you want to be able to have an exit plan, and you want to be able to use your hands to work tomorrow. You know, so you have to think about these things. So,
but I also think too, like you're talking about, you know, I had, you know, many shares of fights. You know, I got jumped in the city. I have those stories to tell, just like some of us do. But what I always found is that those kind of things really humble you, I believe, and you know, they make you realize that you're not invincible.
Yeah.
And they're you know, now some of us learn the hard way and do wind up going down a completely difficult path that they can never find their way back. I was very lucky I didn't. Again, I really contribute that going for me having a great work ethic and showing up, regardless of what I put myself through. So,
and was New York City small enough to where you could get into a fight with a guy and then be friends, you know, a couple weeks after and have that respect like it was down here?
Well, that was more the case in Queens, where I grew up in school.
Yeah.
But once you were in the city, man, it was just, I can remember vividly, like on 57th Street, getting jumped by four people, you know, getting my ass kicked, getting robbed, you know, luckily.
Oh, yeah, that's different.
You know, so
no forgiving that.
But you know what that does too is it like I said, it really grounds you, it really humbles you. It's like shit. Now, some people really thrive on that kind of you know, environment.
Yeah, that's destructive behavior. That can't last forever. It's okay when it's adrenaline and you got some growing to do, and you kind of grow into really your identity,
right,
and making a name for yourself. But for me, it wasn't even a lot about that. I was a protector, you know, because like you, from 9 years old, I was cutting grass and doing all this stuff, anything I could. But I was a protector, so there was just so many bullying opportunities for me to just jump in. I loved to fight, but it was just more about, why are you picking on that kid? Let's do this, me and you. And so for me, I don't know, it just was I don't want to call it calling, but I have found it very, very hard to walk away from those kind of things. So getting out of that environment though saved me.
Yeah.
Finally, I was 20 years old before that happened though.
Yeah. No, it's true. It takes its toll on you, and it takes its path. And then, you know, going back to what I said, you know, walking around as a 17-year-old with working hard and with a pocket full of money, you know, all the other things out there that are very tight, you know.
Yeah, especially when you're probably showing it around, spreading it a little bit, because
everything you could think of as a 17-year-old with a pocket full of money that you could get into, it was available like that. You know, so I became disciplined too. Not to say that I didn't have my work.
Except for your choice of sports team. I agree that you really did a lot in there. Sorry about that. I can't help it. You're the one that put it behind you.
I always forget that.
Artie Lang, who he's been Howard Stern Show, has the best joke about the New York Jets. He said when he was young, he was into football. Then he got older and he got into girls again. And then he got a little bit older, and his uncle told him, the girls may screw you sometimes, but the Jets will always screw you.
It's true. It's true. This is our year, though. This is our year.
Sure.
You know, we say that every year, but this is our year. Yeah, I've been a diehard fan since like 1969. You know, I'm a big Ranger fan. Last night was a tough loss for us, but we got.
That was an overtime. Big overtime loss, was it?
Last night we got smoked 7.
Oh, okay. So. There's a big overtime game last night. I don't really watch hockey because being from Florida, Panthers are in it, but I think we're doing pretty well. So I hear.
You guys always do well, but
yeah.
But you know what? I look. I live and die by it, man. It's not like
It's sports, you know.
I'm not a front runner or a sandbagger.
Now, do you let it ruin a Monday when you guys have like a really tough Sunday, or no? I
Oh
don't.
no,
I don't either.
no, no,
I
no,
don't.
no, no. 10 years ago, I did. Not
Yeah.
anymore. I just expect it. It's just normal, you know. Listen,
Yeah.
you got to go into it with zero expectations. That's the
Yeah.
zero expectations.
And that's the way you do with people too. I think my expectations used to be so high, and I'd get so disappointed anymore. You know, for so many over and over and over. And what I still say to this day is, when I work with people, is I don't think I can be surprised anymore, but I still get disappointed. You know, because you don't want to have that zero expectation. You don't want to get into that mood or that mode that nobody can do your job. But man, I still find when I'm training people, or if I'm working with people in a company, and you set them up for as much success as you can, and they just keep making the same mistakes over and over, and you go, man,
Yeah.
where's that discipline like you talked about? You know?
But it's hard, man. This is a different day and age that we live in now, and I think that the work ethics are, you know, not as good as they should be. You know, but again, people have other outlets and opportunities now that
Yeah.
we didn't have when we were younger. There was you know, nothing like what we're doing right now.
Digital age, crazy.
So it was very much, our choices were a little bit smaller. You know,
Yeah.
now there's so many vast things that you can get involved with, and you know, which doesn't require as much
Physical effort. Yeah.
you know, labor, a lot of mental stuff, but you know,
Yeah.
it's still physical work ethic. Like, hey, like I really earned that dollar today. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where that mentality ever went, and you know, I'm sure there is still people out there that do have that mentality, but I think that it's diminishing very, very quickly in front of our eyes. You know?
I think it's the options that get a lot of people in trouble, because especially when it does come easy online, so you're not worn out, all right? You're not physically worn out from working all day in the sun, and then maybe some money comes from it, and then you start looking for other things, and you really don't focus and really grow something till its fullest potential. You know, that's very easy to do these days.
Well,
going too wide, too quick.
I think the other thing too was, you know, when you take a quick look around, you know, at all the flashy things that are out there and all the superstars that are out there, and you know, as much as you want to sit there and say, okay, this guy's a millionaire, a billionaire, nobody really wants to do the due diligence and really figure out how did they get to that point.
Oh yeah,
they just see the end result. You
yeah,
know?
and then when people meet me, they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, you've been doing this for a couple of months. You know, this kind of thing, the podcasting, the writing, the speaking. You know, you're pretty much an overnight success." And I'll steal a line right from Steve Nudelberg, and I say,
Right.
"Yeah, I'm an overnight success, just 30 years in the making." You know? Steve has 40 years in it. I've got 30. I got 10 on Steve to be my overnight success, man. So overnight success, but. You're absolutely right about that. It's like watching the duck right on top of the water, and they don't know what's going on with those feet underneath.
Right, it's 100%. You know, and then what happens is that when you see those superstars and whoever it might be, maybe it's not a superstar, but somebody with a lot of money, you know, and that becomes the focus. And then I am a true believer, at least me personally, if your motivation is money,
Yeah. Oh no.
I think you got a problem.
Yep.
From the
100%.
From the get-go, if that's your motivation, you know, because look, tried and true, you want to do something that you're passionate about, right?
Yep. Yeah, we got a saying around here. It's you got to examine your whys to create that drive, and if money is in the top 2 or 3 of those whys, it's going to always start with money, but then you got to go deeper. You know, why do you want the money to buy things? Or why do you want to buy things? Well, you know, then you got to start really defining and looking at stuff. So going deep, five whys is what I train my people to go for. But once you get those, then it's not motivation anymore. Then it becomes real drive. But you have to do that a lot, like every couple of months.
See, that sounds like something David Meltzer would say now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into the transition into the much different world of upstate New York, of restauranteering and brewery. And man, that is such a big, you know, turnaround. It's this dichotomy is 100% different. How do you, what made it, what was the transition, the reason you did it, and how did it go?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, if I take you back a little bit, you know, by the time I was 18 years old, coming out of learning the trade, right, I got into the union in Manhattan. I worked in the union. I worked there for quite, you know, maybe 2-3 years. So all I had to do at that point was learn the business. I already knew the trade. So at a very young age,
Oh,
21, 22 years old, I was already at the top pay scale. Like
ha,
there was nowhere else for me to go.
yeah,
So yeah, sure, I could have probably got into supervisor position, but I was still working with my hands, and I enjoyed
not
that.
that young. Yeah, you
Yeah,
want that.
yeah.
Plus, a
So
supervisor on salary probably, and you still getting overtime. You getting paid whatever
sure.
your points on whatever you're doing. Yeah,
So the next best thing. What's the next best thing? I go into my own business.
that's right.
So I started. Well, I don't know if it's the next best thing.
Well,
It
yeah,
was the
working for
next
free isn't fun for a
mindset.
while.
Right, exactly. Little did I know.
In your
But
own head, the next
you know,
best thing.
but at that age, I started my drywall company out on Long Island, Queens, KL Drywall. I ran that for probably 25 years.
Wow.
I had 45 to 60 guys working for me at the peak, and you know, at the age of 45 years old, my son was going off to college. I decided that that industry was no longer for me. I knew that there was a couple of things. My body, it was starting to take its toll physically.
That's a tough one.
My
Drywall.
mindset was, I felt that there was more out there for me. I was being underutilized, even in my own business. I was being there was just more. There was something else that I needed to do. How could I make a difference? So at the age of 45, I sold everything in my life. I sold my house, sold all my investments, liquidated everything, and moved upstate, relocated, moved 2 hours
Damn.
north, and searched, literally searched. I'm telling you, I looked over 100 properties. That became my weekend. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Looked at properties, and in 2008, we found an old opera house that was built in 1893.
Wow.
That was dilapidating, and that's where we put the first location, which was a brew pub, Crossroads Brewing Company in Athens. And that's like the quick version.
Yeah.
But the 2008, when a financing bubble burst, we had, I lost tons and tons of money. We lost deals. We had SBA loans that just literally overnight disintegrated, dissolved. They were gone. Literally found myself walking in to buy that building with financing. I had about $1 in my pocket,
Yeah.
and
Jeez.
scary times.
Yeah. Taking
And
a chance though.
taking
Taking
a
a risk.
taking a chance. But it was all, look, I wanted to get into the beer industry. There was an allure for me to get into the craft beer industry. Back then, there was not anything close to what it is now.
Yeah.
And
You were ahead of the curve.
yeah, so I believe that. I really do. And, so I rolled the dice, took a chance, and, here we are 12 years later. But, if you want to even fast forward that a little bit more, the Athens Brew Pub opened in 2009, and then in 2017 we opened our second location, which was the Catskill production
Yeah.
facility.
Okay. So you
And
went from the restaurateur and the brewing stuff to a distribution level. So the next level up in as far as like mass production goes, and
right,
it was a hit, I guess. The beer, right? Is that the first thing? Is you notice that people dug it,
right.
all right, and you're doing well with it, and it's a beautiful place, by the way. I mean, it's a great
Thank you.
place. So, how was the decision? Who did you talk to say, hey, we want to go big on this? Besides being your nature, but
It was probably my nature, but so the brew pub concept, right? Basically, that was a newer concept back in 2009, and what that meant was it was a restaurant that had a small brewery on premise that brewed specifically and exclusively for the restaurant.
yeah,
Your own beer, kind of like a bakery making its own pizza dough or bread for
but much more fun than bread,
yeah, a little bit, yeah, you could say that.
at least for the consumer, anyway.
Much more fun and much more dangerous when you get so we were at capacity literally at that place immediately. So right away it was like, okay,
Yeah,
like, all right, what's next? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's next? So it took us literally, like, think about that too. We opened in 2009. it took us till 2016, 17 to plan
Yeah.
money, raise the money to open the second facility,
Yeah.
which is the production. So,
and
so
now,
it wasn't like you said, the duck before with that. Like people don't
yeah.
realize, oh, all of a sudden the doors are open. Wow, it must be nice. They're
Yeah.
making a lot of money. No, you have no idea.
But I like that you're not resting on a laurel, that you're saying, I think this is going great. You built it up into a capacity crowd where you got a good following, you got great relationships, reputation is there. But what's next? All right, that horizon is thin, or it's narrow. It's always closer. All right, always moving in on me anyway. I know, knowing you as long as I have in the circles that we run in, kind of our MO. All right.
Yeah, yeah. I you know what? Even at this point in time, surviving through the pandemic, and just like everybody survived through the pandemic, like there's, I just what you said, man. It's always what's next.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's next, man? Like, yeah, I'm going to do this, but what's next?
Yeah. Now, how'd you find working with the different teams that you built? The 45 drywall guys or women, some of them I'm sure were, and in New York City, you got some tough women. But when you move into restaurant workers and brewery workers, that's a different animal. How did you do that transition?
It's a great question. It really is. I learned more about myself probably in the 10 years that I worked in the restaurant industry than I did in the 25 years in the drywall industry. I had to go from managing that type of personality to a 17-year-old female to a 59-year-old line cook.
Yeah.
Every personality, every type of scenario, situations, learning how to navigate and manage people on the fly like that, close up, side by side. And I took a lot of how I grew my business, my drywall business. I took a lot of that with me because I was always a hands-on guy. I would never ask someone to do something that I wouldn't. And I was always side by side. And in the beginning, when we built that restaurant, I mean, I was doing the dishes. I was side by side with the dishwasher.
Yes.
I was cleaning the grease trap.
Yeah.
I was washing tables. I was washing windows. Whatever it took, I was doing it. And I wanted to also show my staff and the people that I work with that we're here doing this together.
That's right.
And little do people know, it's like, all those people that work for you. Nah, man, you got that wrong. I work for them.
Yeah. They're serving my customers, they're serving the community, and I'm serving them.
Right. And I'm serving them.
Because I exist here because of them. I mean, that is an industry. You could be a drywaller, you could be a solopreneur in a drywall outfit, not in a brewery.
Right.
It's impossible. Not possible.
Not possible. But so much I learned, so much. I mean, it was just incredible. And accountability was a big one. And I always I would walk around and be like, I don't understand. How come this isn't done? How come that's not done? I would have my moments, right? I say, like, why is it? And then it dawned on me one day, and it was just like, listen, man, you're the owner of this company. If you don't give your team the tools that they need to succeed, that's not on them.
No.
That's on me.
Yes.
And once that happened, I was just like, okay, man, I got to start putting procedures in place. I got to start really making sure things. And look, it's a challenge even to this very moment. I'm not saying that I got it all figured out, but that's kind of where my mentality went.
I think it's an age thing too, though, because it was in my 40s before I started growing these relationships that proved to be the real reason why I am successful.
Yeah.
That personal relationship with people, not on a transactional level, but on a servitude level, a serving heart, and not looking what's in it for me, but looking, it's the other favorite radio station, right? The WIIFM, what's in it for me. That spotlight turns around, and when you start really growing those relationships, even if it is inside, and it took a while for that selfishness to get away, but yeah, I still put effort into it, and they paid off, and the success leaves clues, as Steve always says. That they really shows when you start building these relationships, the way that things come around when you need it without even knowing that you need it, maybe?
Jeremy, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, honestly, I'll be the first one to tell you in the first couple of years when I started that business and, 5 years in, 6 years in, I was lost. I
Mm.
mean, I had there were days I was like, honestly, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
Like you have no business being in this business. You don't know anything about this business. Like, like,
you're
just
waking up at night going,
like, what am I
you know,
doing? And then just because of my work ethic, I always say that I would go in the next day, no matter how bad it was, and I said, now you're learning, right? You're learning from your failures. You're learning from the things that you're doing wrong. But I also got to a point where I was like, all right, in order to do great things, you got to surround yourself with great people, which means
wow,
I have a great core group of people. But now, for me, mentally, I have to surround myself with people who have the same mindset and the
yeah,
people who think the same. Now, how do I do that? And just like you said, one door at a time, opening
yeah,
up and
yeah,
networking and meeting people like yourself, like Scott McGregor, and
yeah,
just kind of and all of a sudden, we had the chat earlier when before we were online. You said it's like a cascade, man.
yeah,
Like it just starts, and you don't even realize that it's happening.
yeah,
But if it wasn't for me, probably about 6 months before COVID, deciding like, okay, I can continue doing what I'm doing, but nothing's going to change. So I had to change my mind, my mindset, surround
mm,
myself with people who are successful and figure out like, hey, what are they doing? And how can I just take bits and pieces from those successful people and apply it to my work ethic and my mindset?
yeah,
And that's when things really started opening up and started to change for me as far as me personally. I guess the personal development, right? I
yeah.
started to see things a little bit clearer. I was able to not get overwhelmed as much, think things through a little bit more, not make really quick decisions.
Yes,
And it
and
was
that's all part of proactiveness instead of
yeah,
that reactive. You're always
100,
reacting. It's changing the language in your head.
100%,
You know,
100%. But it was a learning process to like, how do I
it
get to
is.
where I want to be? How do I get there? And again, we all have our friends and we all have like personal friends that are great. But I think there gets a point in every entrepreneur's life where it's like you're kind of like floating above and you're not thinking the same as a lot of other people.
Yeah,
So when that happens is you don't have as many people to talk to about those things, like close friends
yeah,
or someone. So you look out like 3 years ago, I didn't even a mentor. I was like, what's a mentor? What's a
mm,
coach? Like I didn't know anything about these things.
yes.
And I just continued to forge forward and I says, there's got to be more. I got to learn more. I got to learn more. And how
That's
do
all
I do
about life.
you
That's
know?
life. When you go through the rest of your life just trying to learn more, and anybody of my clients, if I don't learn something from a client, I can't. He can't be my client, or she can't be my client.
But
I need to learn from the people I'm working with or who I'm serving as much as they need to learn from me.
100%.
You
Yeah,
know,
100%. Yeah, keeps it fresh, keeps it new. And
yeah. So I said that's the one good thing about this digital age, and I mean, for the work ethic that we talked about, it is a pandemic of its own in the world about laziness and taking shortcuts, but this relationship building that is life changing as well. It just like everything's a pendulum, right? You get both sides of that pendulum, and it swings back and forth. So that relationship building that we get to do, as well as we think we know each other and feel like we're friends, even though we've never shook hands, that could have never, ever, ever happened 20
100%.
years ago, 30 years ago,
You're
even
right. You're right. It's given us a great opportunities to really reach out and be part of some
a community.
community of really
Yeah.
successful and great people. And to really not only that, but exactly what you're doing, bring value back to people who 20, 30 years ago wouldn't have the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So if you could just make a difference and change the life of one person, you're doing what you should be doing and
Yeah.
giving back. And that's kind of like where I am at now. I'm in my 50s now and I want to give back where it makes sense, however it may be. Like we do a lot of work with, suicide prevention,
Yes.
opioid. I mean, you and I had this
Yeah.
conversation a long time ago. Like what else? Like what else am I here for? Like if I
Yeah.
can't take
Yeah.
what we've done and give back on some level, and when I say give back, I do it with zero expectations. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not, you
yeah.
know.
That's not giving it otherwise, right? It's
So,
it's
but
bartering, right?
maybe going back to what you said, it's age, maybe.
I think
You know,
so.
I don't know. But that's kind of like where I'm at, and it feels good to do specific things like that for me.
That's
You know,
great. So, how can we help you? How can the audience, how can our listenership, what is it that you look for? Who can you help? Who are you looking to help? Maybe put it that way, since we're in that vein of kind of giving. What kind of person is it that you like to help? So, if someone's watching this, we didn't even really get into the distribution part of the business that you did get into. What is it that we want to spread the news of Ken Landin?
hey, listen, man. It's like everybody else pushing whatever product that they have a passion for. Look, I make beer for a living. It's Crossroads Brewing Company. If you ever find yourself in the New York area, if you find yourself in Pennsylvania, please go in and ask for it. And even if you're not, if you're in another state, spread the word about this Crossroads Brewing Company. That's always good. But as far as me, like the type of person, I've just gotten myself involved with, I work with Warrior Rising. So I'm a mentor with the Veteranpreneur program there, which is
Veteranpreneur. That's a first.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't do this often, but wrong one. I don't do this often, but Veteranpreneur. That is
Veteranpreneur. Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
So basically, I signed up to be a mentor for that, and what
Wow.
the Warrior Rising Project does is that they take vets that are retiring from the service and want to get into business and really are very disciplined mentally, physically, but
Hmm.
maybe challenged business wise. So we give them the tools that they need to get into the business industry.
Yeah. Please pass that information on to me.
Yeah, I will,
Please,
100%.
please do that.
And then look, I'm a volunteer at my local VFW post. It's also a veteran organization. I do what I can volunteering there.
Yeah.
I got involved with the TCC, which you and I both are part of, which I think is great. For like-minded, people
People.
who have that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great, and through that platform alone, the networking of incredible people,
Absolutely.
authentic, transparent people it's in such abundance that it's just I'm really,
I
really.
struggle with saying no, not to get on all the TCC opportunities to be around these people. I mean, it could consume your whole day because there's so much uh, content and opportunities and events that Scott has put together there.
It's great. It really is, and I'm really humbled and grateful to be part of it, and continue to do so. And again, just who would have thought that all these years in the beer business, how I can give back. How I give back. Like I said,
Yeah,
we're brewing a beer with suicide prevention. We're
I
we're
love it.
supporting opioid prevention. Just those types of things, and just getting involved and making a difference, one beer
Yeah.
at a time. You know.
Well, on that, I will say, till next time, we will be back and do this again on the next show. I'll have you on as a guest on the Get Down to Business. That's the next one coming out.
Right
I
on.
want to thank you for being here today. We're going to say to get in touch with you, actually, just go to the website is Crossroads Brewing Company, crossroadsbrewing.com. The email is ken at crossroadsbrewingco.com.
Yeah, and I'm like I said, the only platform I really, really am active on is LinkedIn. So if
Yep.
anybody ever wants to reach out on LinkedIn,
Very,
that's
very accessible.
awesome.
And then come by the Crossroads Brewing Company for a beer if you're in Athens or upstate New York, Catskills, or anywhere in the greater New York area or Pennsylvania. The beer is available,
Yes,
Crossroads Brewing. So we're going to check those out.
sir.
I appreciate you. Stick around so I can give you a proper goodbye
Right on, man.
after I get done with my goodbyes to these wonderful people who support me, my crowd, my peeps who are watching this at any time. Keep those comments coming. These videos really respond well to the algorithms of the likes and the subscribes, but really the comments. What did you resounded with you? What did you identify with? Who would you like to have me on? I get a lot of people who kind of refer people to this show. It really does make a difference. I read all the comments. I don't really get too many negative comments, which is a good thing. But I don't really respond to those. But the positive stuff, guys, you guys are the reason I do this, touching more people, and it's all because of people like Ken who come on and share their stories. So Keep doing what you're doing, and remember, always go pro.